I'm Katie Williamson, certified life fulfillment coach.
And I'm Lauren Evangelho, a seriously self-taught entrepreneur. And this is where we share real life, have real conversations as two very real women.
In this space, we're going to cut through the bullshit from society and in our own heads and peel back the layers of who we are, why we're here, and how you can do the same in your own life.
Let's get beyond the bull.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to this episode of Beyond the Bull. I'm Katie Williamson.
And I am Lauren Evangelho. And today we're going to be talking about why your whys are so important.
Awesome. I'm really excited about our conversation today because, the last few episodes that we've done have really focused on, setting effective goals and starting off the new year strong. And then last time we talked about kind of the emotions that can come up when plans just don't go your way and some strategies for tuning back into yourself and figuring out how to best move forward. So I think talking about our whys is perfect to keep building on that and, really buckling down and figuring out, why is it important to know our whys?
Yes, I'm very excited for this one too. Ever since I figured out what my whys are, my life has totally changed.
Ooh, and how did you do that, Lauren?
How did I figure out what my whys are?
Yeah.
Well, with a lot of your help, to be sure. In case you guys don't know, I get coaching, one-on-one coaching from Katie as well. Which I highly, highly recommend if you want to change your life for the better.
I was going to say shameless plug. I actually do coaching on this very topic of discovering your purpose. And so that was a session that Lauren and I went through. It's been a few months now that we went through it and then continued coaching after that. But actually, Lauren, do you want to just share kind of why that was so impactful for you and what you learned from it?
Oh my gosh, it was so much more than I was expecting or even hoping for. Where do I even start? Katie had me go through some pretty intense visualizations and exercises that basically I don't want to give away like all
don't give it away
or anything of how you do it, but these visualizations guided me through just imagining what I wanted my future to look like and what I wanted to be. And although I knew a lot of my whys, I hadn't really put them down in like a really clear, focused kind of an order and really written them out and experienced them fully. So that helped me do that. And it's just so hard to put into words. She helped me find what my core values are in life and in myself, and what my true passion and purposes are in this life. And it was, I wasn't prepared to talk about this, so I feel like it's just kind of rambling, but
that's okay. I didn't know we were going to kind of go down this route either. But I guess,
I'm sorry.
No, it's good. Because, I don't always share about like that side of the coaching that I do. It's on my website. And I have testimonials on there and stuff. But I don't put a lot of it on social media, which I'm working on.
You really should.
But yeah, and it's been so awesome to just have the privilege to get to go through that with you, Lauren, because I think one of the things that is so impactful for me as a coach and why I love coaching is because I'm not telling you things that I'm not like solving your problems for you. I'm holding the space for you to process, yes, and yes, the accountability, but it's more about just creating that safe space for you to open up on a deeper level and really get to the core of who you are and what you value and what your passions are and what your purpose is. in a way that you can't do on your own. On our own, we have so many like layers that we put on, masks, however you want to think about it. Like right now I'm getting the picture of, like an onion where there's that little piece in the center that like everything just kind of builds around those layers. And, I think our souls are like that too. And we go through life and kind of adopt these layers that we put on that are our filters for how we see the world. And these layers could be good or bad, which we talked about those judgments last time. But the point is that sometimes it can hide what's really underneath. And there's many ways to kind of peel those outer layers away and get to the core of who we really are. And I believe that coaching is one of them. And this process that I take people through in discovering their purpose is another way, another tool to get to the core of who you are, why you're here, and kind of what to do about it in a very quick way. It might not seem like it's quick when you're going through it, but
I felt like it was so fast. Like, I know I took weeks to complete it, but every time we went through the next step, it was like my mind was just blown, like, poof. And I want to reiterate what you said, that you don't tell the person that you're coaching what the answers are. You'll find out that the answers are already inside you and you already know all of the answers, but you know exactly the right questions to ask. And you're so good at just finding just the little areas in your brain to pick at until all those layers are peeled away and you can find that answer.
Yeah.
So,
well, thank you. I do feel like a part of that for me. I mean, I've talked about it before and it's on my website. Like I do have a background in psychology and my master's in sports psychology, which the sports psychology is all about mindset. And then I do have my certification in coaching as well. So there definitely are some skills and techniques that are in play, and just overall knowledge and skill in that. And I would say, I do believe that coaching is a part of the way that I live out my purpose. And because of that, I mean, I swear sometimes I really think it's just intuition, God guiding me, whatever name you want to call it. Because, when I'm quiet and in that space where I'm really there to serve, questions come to mind, or, certain things to pick at, like you said, come to mind, that it's not me. It's like, I just kind of get to be the channel of, light or whatever flowing through me, to help you discover your purpose and, just become more in alignment with who you were created to be. So thank you for that. I really enjoy getting
longest plug ever, but every word of it was true. So for those of you who can't do one-on-one coaching with you, you can still do some self-coaching. And back to the whys and why whys are important.
Well, I would say with that, I mean, it really is important to, get to the core of who you are and why you're here. And like we said, there's so many ways that you can do that and discover that. And I think a lot of times, I've seen this in my own life and I see this in other people too. We get really hung up on thinking that the path is the thing to focus on. So what I mean by that is like, we think, oh, I need to discover my purpose. So I better do this coaching. And then, okay, that kind of worked, but I'm still kind of confused. So I need to read this book. And I kind of got a little more clarity, and I need to meditate every day, and then I'll know my purpose. And if only I could get to the point where I was doing yoga and meditation every day, then I'd be in alignment with what I'm supposed to do. And it's like, it can be really easy to get caught up in the tasks of the doingness, what I like to call it, of like this, doing this is what's going to give me this outcome. When in reality, like it's, oh gosh, and you hear this all the time. I know it's cliche to say it's about the journey, but what I mean by that is it's a recognition that there's a variety of paths that can get you to this single outcome that you're desiring. And sometimes it's not just a quick, like, okay, I did that, so check it off the list. It's something much deeper than that. And when we can start to separate the two, in my experience, even though it's very difficult, that's when I've started to find kind of peace and joy and understand that, oh, it's about the journey type of deal.
Yes. And I feel like this would be a very good time to share a personal journey that you've helped me through that
Yeah.
relates perfectly to everything that you just said. So what was it when I was going through my jujitsu crisis, maybe like a couple months ago?
Yeah, I
3
think
months
so.
ago. So I have been training jujitsu for 6.5 years, something like that. And I was just having the hardest time showing up lately. I couldn't get myself to go to the gym. I felt like I was always injured. I felt like I had no motivation. I just wasn't enjoying it anymore. And I was really struggling with that because I had been training so long. And this was the one thing in my life that I had done for that long. I hadn't given up on, and it had become a part of my life. And so I was just really torn up about what to do and if I should continue and if I should keep forcing myself to go, even though I wasn't still loving it. And I think that's what you were talking about, getting caught up in the doingness of it. I was very much focused on doing jujitsu rather than doing my why, my reasons. So Katie helped me figure out, why do I love jujitsu? Why do I love training it? And one of the main reasons was for the self-defense aspect. That's one of my deeper whys, is I want to be able to protect myself and protect the people that I love if a situation ever arises where I need to. And so she kind of helped me figure out, like, that's why I'm training. I'm not training to get the next belt level. I'm not training to be able to beat up other people who are, at a lower rank or same rank as me. Those reasons weren't good enough. And so I figured out my real why. And interestingly enough, I found a different path to take that still satisfied my reason of why I was training. So I decided to start training Muay Thai instead. And I felt like I was still honoring my why and honoring my reason. I was just taking a different path and I was doing something different to get there. And it made it a lot more of a peaceful transition in my brain, because I didn't feel like I was giving up jujitsu, and I still don't. I just felt like I have a different focus now. And honestly, can't thank Katie enough for that, because I was torn up for months, years, about making that, I guess, decision, even though I didn't really, I guess it's a decision in my brain.
Yeah. And I mean, with that, Lauren, I mean, have you trained jujitsu since you've been training Muay Thai?
Once or twice. I'm still focusing on Muay Thai more because that's just what's lighting my soul on fire right now. But I do plan on going back to jujitsu when I'm ready.
Yeah.
I still want to. Yeah.
And I mean, you said this phrase that I love, and I'm so glad that it came up, is that, you're doing what sets your soul on fire right now, which is Muay Thai. And how are you feeling before we went through that kind of process, getting to jujitsu?
Oh my gosh. I hated it, to be honest. I hate it every day. I would wake up and say, okay, I have to make myself go today. And I just felt like crap about it. It was awful. I would cry about it. When I would go to train, I would have a breakdown in the middle of training and just cry just because I didn't want to be there and I didn't want to do it that bad.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so that brings to mind for me something that a few things I think are really important is that, and it kind of goes back to our conversation that we talked about last time of like, what do you do when things don't go to plan? And I mean, it sounds like when you started jujitsu, like the plan was to do jujitsu, even though like maybe on a conscious level, it wasn't to do jujitsu for self-defense necessarily. And maybe it was, but like the plan was to do it. And so when you hit this roadblock of all of a sudden having these emotions and these challenges and not wanting to do it anymore, it was like there was this internal conflict happening because how could you give something up that and we worked through that a little bit also of looking at, okay, why are there strong emotions and what piece of your identity is attached into jujitsu, why is it important, and all of that. But then also being able to sort through that as we peeled back the layers to get to your deeper why, and then ask that question, just, is there another way you can do that?
Yeah. And my why was the reason I was hanging on to it so tight.
Yeah.
I knew I had that deeper reason of why I was there.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I didn't want to give up. So I found a way to still honor my why, but do it in a way that I love.
Yeah. And so, sometimes I think we can confuse our purpose or our why we're doing something for the thing itself.
Yeah.
So, or we want to say like, oh, it's because I love it. But there's something deeper, we want to get specific on what exactly that is, in order to see when there is that resistance. And I think this is probably one of the hardest things in my experience to navigate when roadblocks come up is to know, well, what's the quote unquote right choice? Here's this speed bump or roadblock or brick wall in front of me. Do I knock it down? Do I climb over it? Do I figure out how to get around it? Or do I just leave it and go down a different road? And I think there's stress that comes up when we get so focused on that the outcome is the ultimate thing. And we forget like why we're doing it in the first place. That can give some discernment in that moment to say, oh, wait a minute, I've tried sticking with it for a while, and I do have peace finding a different path to get to the deeper reason of why I'm doing this in the first place, which for you was self-defense, and finding something new that still allowed you to reach that purpose in your life, but just through a different avenue.
Yes. All of that. Yes. And that's why it's so important to have a why, a real, deep, meaningful why, or multiple whys
Mm-hmm.
to guide you through those roadblocks when there is a brick wall in front of you. Those reasons are what's going to guide you into making the right choice for you.
Yeah.
That's what I've discovered.
And I think it's hard because, I've definitely had times where I've tried to figure out my why on my own, and it just did not resonate whatsoever. And I think that's important to talk about, is that finding your why isn't always something that you can just sit down and journal about, and 20 minutes later, you have it figured out. It's sometimes it can take a lot of self-reflection and self-awareness and soul searching to really figure out like, what is it that I love? And not just that, but why do I love it? What are the feelings underneath that I want to experience? What are the values in my life that are really important to me? And the cool thing is that even though that can be difficult to like pinpoint and figure out, once you do get there, like things become fun because the outcome, like what we're talking about, or not the outcome, but the avenue to get to a certain outcome can change. And that's where we have freedom to say, oh, actually, I want to do this instead because this isn't this isn't the career that I thought I would have, but I can see that it checks all the boxes for my values. I get to live my values out in doing this. Again, going back to the doing this and being this, I get to be fully myself by doing this. So heck yeah, even though it wasn't part of the quote unquote original plan.
Yes. So I know you said that it's not always as simple as sitting down and writing it out or reflecting, or, it's not something you can come up with in 20 minutes, but what advice can you give to people who are trying to find their deeper reasons and their whys, and how can they go about doing that?
Yeah, that's a great question. That's why they pay me $3. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
You can be as vague as you want. You don't have to give away all your secrets. I'm just curious, like what can somebody do right now if they feel like they need that to find their why?
Yeah, so I mean, to me, I'm thinking back of like, and I say back in the sense of taking a few steps back of like, okay, how did we get here? I think of, okay, if I'm struggling to know my why, then that struggle is probably triggered by some piece of maybe unhappiness or unsettledness in some area of life.
Mm.
So I think that we can have like multiple whys, multiple purposes for the things that we do.
I think
And
it's really important to have more than one, honestly.
yeah, because if we just have one, then it's like, oh gosh, I better make sure that I hit this bullseye, you
It
know?
doesn't work for every situation, is what I found. Like I have a list of like 12 whys in front of me right now, and I pull out different ones for different days. You know what I mean? Because
Yeah.
sometimes one will mean more to me than another one does.
Yeah. And what I hear in that is like a deeper conversation on values.
Mm.
So correct me if I'm wrong, but maybe like the different quote unquote whys that you're pulling out are actually tapping into different core values that you've
For
identified that
sure.
you have.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really good place to start of like, okay, what is it that you value? What
Mhm.
qualities do you value? Um, how do you want to feel when you're doing things? We think about asking the questions of like, what sets your soul on fire? And I think that there's a misconception that our career is our purpose, or that we're only going to be happy and fulfilled in our career when we know that we're living out our purpose. And that gets back to we're replacing the doingness of work with the beingness of who we are. Because I've come to a point now where, because I know my core values and because I do have like a life purpose statement for myself. And I know what I'm just naturally really gifted and talented at. There are so many avenues and ways that I can live all of those out that I can actually do multiple careers and still live out my purpose. Does that make sense?
Yes, and you helped me realize the same thing too. Can I share? Let me grab this real quick. Okay, this is the little tree. I won't. It's top
It's okay.
secret, but that's what I'm referring to. You helped me discover that my roots of who I am, my core identity and values, are things like growth, creativity, health, um, what else? What's another one? A provider. I love providing for people. I love teaching and educating. And if you just look at those words, I mean, there's like a million different things that I can do where I can fulfill
Yes.
those things. And I always thought that my business was my life purpose up until I met you. I always thought that what I'm doing, like I just felt like this is what I was put on this earth to do. You know, I have my meal prep business, so I cook healthy food for people, yada, yada, yada. But ever since coaching with you, I realized like it's not my job. It's not my business. That's my purpose. It's what I'm doing in my business.
Yeah. That helps you live out who you are at your core.
Yes. And that was like just, I don't know, just that reframing of my mind just was so awesome because then that opened up so many more paths for me. And now I'm doing a podcast and now I'm teaching interns every week and just all kinds of
And
things
you
that I'm
started a
doing.
second business.
And I started a second business. And so, and all of them, I'm living out my whys.
Yeah.
So
And
that was really cool.
yeah, and that is where it gets really cool because it really takes the pressure off, especially when things don't go your way, like what we were talking about last time, where, okay, if I think that my purpose is this one career, how do you think I would feel if something catastrophic happened and I got laid off in that career? Or I started my own business thinking this is my purpose and it went bankrupt for some reason. From an identity perspective, I mean, that's devastating.
Yeah.
You know, when we reframe it as realizing that, okay, this, yes, is something I'm passionate about. And it's one way that I get to honor who I am, who I was created to be, what my values are, what I'm passionate about, what my gifts and talents are. If it goes away, it's okay because I mean, it might be sad, but I'm still me and
Yeah.
I I'm rooted in something deeper than an external circumstance, and that's what helps me to keep going to try again.
I think you hit the target and the bullseye with that one. I mean, I don't think I could have worded it any more perfectly.
I mean,
That's
to me, that's
fantastic.
where this conversation of, our deeper whys and our purpose and why it's so important is because um, when we peel back those layers of the onion and get to really just the very, very core, do you know what I'm talking about? Like that little, you do, of course, but
Now I do. Yeah.
like that bulb inside of it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about? Like when we get to that part of who we are, like, and everything that we do, we see as just an overflow of that.
Mm.
Like, it doesn't matter what comes and goes in our life because we're rooted in something that can't be taken away. Like, my values might change, but my values are mine. And my
Yeah.
gifts and talents are mine. Like, those aren't going anywhere. My mind is my own, a little crazy sometimes, but brilliant other times, I think,
Me
and
too.
it's like, thank you. And it's like that isn't going anywhere. So if I can flip the script and reframe my mindset to realize that like my purpose is anything that allows me to live as my fullest self and as the expression of all of that, then it doesn't matter what I do. I could do
It's
any
like
number of
it's like instantly the opportunity for happiness blows up. Like there's
100%.
so much opportunity to find happiness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
because happiness, that's where, so this
Mm.
whole conversation, I think, is what's meant by it's about the journey, not
Mm.
about the outcome. Because again, when happiness is tied to this outcome, when I graduate from college, when I achieve this job, when I achieve this status in life, like that is such a blip on the radar and something that's really not guaranteed
Yes.
to last. I mean, I guess nobody can take my degree away from me, but I mean, I don't remember all of the knowledge that I supposedly learned through
Yeah.
school, you know? Um,
And I
so
think another like really common one, okay, we're gonna get down to the bullshit right now, is losing weight, and looking good. And I think, where do I want to go with this?
yeah, where do you want to go with this?
I don't know. I just feel like this needs to be addressed in this episode,
Mhm.
because finding your whys is, um, it's really important to dive deeper. Because okay, so like tying back to our last two episodes, we are talking about New Year's resolutions, and we were talking about um, handling change. And I just feel like most people, okay, not most people, scratch that, but a lot of people going into the new year really focus on health, fitness, weight loss, or muscle gain, physique goals, we'll just say that. And I mean, personally, from what I've seen and experienced, I think like 99% of people do not take the time to really figure out why they want that. Why do they want to lose that 20 pounds? Or why do they want to wear smaller clothes? Or why do they want to look a certain way? And I feel like their whys are kind of, is it bad to say shallow? Like, I don't want to be like judgy on anybody, but
I think
pretty
it's kind of judgmental
on the
talking about
surface.
other
We'll
people.
just say on the surface.
So I would say, have you ever been in this situation?
Oh yeah, I'm
Okay,
100% good.
so if we talk from our own personal experience rather than just kind of this
Okay.
arbitrary, like these people make these goals and have shallow whys, like I think that
Yeah.
helps. That removes the judgment from it.
Yeah, I've definitely been in that situation where I was so frustrated, and so I just felt like giving up, because I've been trying to lose weight for years now. And I just remember thinking, I want the body that I used to have. I want to be as strong as I used to be. I want to fit into my size 7 jeans again. And I never really, before the last year or two, I never really had a reason why, other than I just thought that looking a certain way would make me happy.
Yeah. So what I would say is, like all behavior is tied to some type of emotion, and it's about peeling those layers back to thinking about what. And this is where it gets tricky because it's easy on the surface to say, "Well, I want to lose 20 pounds because I want to be thinner. That's my why. I want to be thin."
Right.
And the I guess the pitfall with that is that that is a why that's coming intellectually, and it's not tapping into the real reason of why this is important to you. So, and that's very vulnerable. To It's really easy to speak from our head and not from our heart, because our
Mhm.
heart is where the vulnerability happens. And this kind of just came to mind right now. Like, I guess I kind of consider like, I guess I've never really thought about this, but I guess I always consider like my soul to be kind of like attached or in my heart region area. Um, and I mean, if I believe that, then it just makes sense that like the heart is closer to the soul, and the mind's a little bit farther away. And there's a lot that gets filtered out from the soul to the heart to the mind before the mouth speaks.
Oh,
And
I like that.
that's where the layers come in, and it's protective because we're protecting what's truly in our soul out of fear of
Ooh.
there's a lot of fears that come up with that. So when motivation is failing, but what I mean by that is like the behaviors that would get you to reaching your goals aren't happening. It's because there's a disconnect from your soul to your heart to your head.
Yeah.
And or you're trying to convince your actions with reasons that are coming from your mind and not from the depth of who you are. So there's actually, it's funny, in one of the groups that I'm a part of, the coach that I actually work with, we've been talking about this the last few weeks, that there's nine motivations for behavior that
I feel like I have to write this down.
I know they're really good. And we just have to get clear on what's the motive behind why this is important. And so these 9 that he talks about are a desire for love, desire for sex, desire for health, desire for self-preservation or certainty, desire for freedom of body and mind, desire for personal expression of fame, desire for perpetuation of life, desire for revenge, or the emotion of fear. And within the emotion of fear, there's actually 7 different fears that come into play: a fear of poverty, a fear of criticism, a fear of ill health, a fear of loss of love, a fear of old age, a fear of loss of liberty, or a fear of death. So when we're talking about core motivations, it has to be at least one of these, and we have to be real about what it actually is. So thinking back to setting a weight loss goal, for example, if my goal is to be thin, I have to think about, like, what exactly am I desiring? What do I think that losing that weight is going to give me? What do I want it to bring to me? What's my desire really for that? Maybe it's a desire for love. Like, I want to be more attractive physically because I desire love. And I think that's the way that it's going to come about. And again, with all of these, we want to make sure that we're removing judgment and shame, that it's not bad to want to look hot or to look sexy or to look good.
There's nothing wrong with that.
No. So where alignment comes in, though, and this is important, is that, like, one of the downfalls of guilt and shame, for example, or judgment, is that when I judge the reason why, like, let's say, I don't know, let's say, like, my goal for losing 20 pounds is a desire for sex. Okay. We'll just say that. So if I have a judgment about that and I say, oh, that's bad for me to want to look sexy and have that be my motivating desire, but that's actually what it is, now there's an incongruency within me. And when there's an incongruency within me, then that's one of the ways that think of it like the channel's broken. The desire for sex is the root cause, but my head judges that and says that's wrong. So it's broken. It can't flow. So because of that, I can't be in alignment with my behavior because my soul and head aren't connected. My head's saying, no, that's bad. Don't do it for that reason. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
So I can't, like, fully accept and live out my motivator or my why because I'm not willing to own it as who I am, which means I'm most likely not going to reach my goal because I'm not in alignment internally.
Yeah. Or you will, but it's only going to be short-lived and temporary. Can you maintain it?
Yeah. I mean, I would have to rely on discipline in order to get there. And that's just not going to last. Yeah. So it's important to think through that in anything, what is my really deep, deep reason for why this is so important to me? And a quick way to know if you've hit it or not is if you're actually motivated to take action on your goals consistently. If you're not, then you're probably not clear on what your why is. And you got to go back to the core and think, why is this so important to me? And one last thing I want to add is that there's 2 important pieces when you're looking at this to consider. And that's that when we're thinking about making a change in our life and trying to figure out why is this so important to me, there's moving away from language and moving towards language. And it's important to have reasons for both. Think about like, what am I trying to leave behind? What am I trying to avoid? What do I not want to feel or be or do
And
anymore?
that's kind of where your fears come in that you were talking about,
Possibly,
or the list of motivators, I should say.
possibly.
Okay.
And then what do I want instead? What is the life on the other side of this?
Mm.
So yeah, I guess you would be right. Like the fears especially would definitely be ones that you're moving away from, and the moving towards are like the top 6. I think the desire for revenge, I believe, would be kind of moving away from. I have to go back and double check. I'm not sure.
That's a tough one.
I know it's kind of in the middle because like you're wanting revenge, but it's like I have to give that one some thought.
Yeah. Hard one.
But yeah,
So much good stuff.
I know there's kind of a lot in there, huh?
Yeah. I wish we could spend a whole nother hour on this. Dang.
I know there's so much. And it's interesting because so here's kind of this in practice for me, right? So when I went through my coaching certification, I was like super resistant to this whole kind of process along the way. And it was just me, it was just how I moved through it. So when people are resistant, when I'm coaching them, like it really doesn't throw me off because I was there too. And it's just how we go through it. You know, some people go through it. But anyway, I actually had to apologize to the gal who was coaching me through it, and we became good friends after because I was kind of a bitch in the session, and I was just like, no, that's not right. I don't
No,
believe
that's
that.
impossible for you.
Yeah, no, I'm serious. Sometimes it comes out, but I mean, I wasn't intending to be bitchy. It was just like me trying to wrap my head around. I can get kind of analytical.
Yes.
And so it was just me trying to wrap my head around like, wait, what? I was not expecting this at all. But as I kept moving through it, like it was totally spot on. And anyway, my point with that is out of that. So this was a few years ago now. My life purpose statement was that I am full of life and radiate God's light in order to help others discover the divine strength within them to carry out their purpose and understand their purpose. And it's like, the cool thing with that is I didn't really understand that at the time. And now I look at so many things that I'm doing in life, including my coaching, that's all about helping people discover their purpose. And I'm doing that in a way of being authentic to me. And it's like, I'm living it out in multiple ways with the things that I'm doing. So, when, again, just to bring it back full circle, the important thing is to separate our purpose from a specific career or job or a very specific path. And that's what can give us that anchor in times of uncertainty, like what we were talking about in our last episode, because it doesn't matter what we do. If we know who we are, anything can happen and we'll still be grounded in who we are and why we're here.
Yes. Awkward silence.
Oh, yeah. Well, anything?
Well, should we wrap it up there?
Sure. Is there anything else you want to share or comment on, Lauren?
Kind of. I'm kind of curious on your opinion on one little thing before we end.
Okay.
I just think that one of the questions that I asked myself before I met you, and this is what helped me like kind of figure out my whys before I got real deep into them. I think I saw it on my Facebook newsfeed. Actually, it was just like a random thing that totally blew my mind. And it said, when you die, you're not going to be remembered for how sexy you look or how awesome your fashion is or how many cool things that you have. And you need to ask yourself, like, what do you want to be remembered for when you pass on? What do you want to leave behind? And what's most important to you for people to remember you by? And that's what really helped me figure out what my deeper reasons and my whys are. So I don't know, just maybe I could throw that out there. Maybe that could help somebody else out there that's struggling with finding their whys.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that legacy piece is also a huge piece of the puzzle, and again, another path to get to the heart of who you are is, what do you want to be remembered for? How do you want to make people feel?
Yes.
Those are also definitely pieces of the puzzle that are really important. So I'm glad that you brought that up. And another thing that comes to mind too is one of the things that I'm finding that is important in our purpose too, as I think back over many iterations of me trying to figure out my purpose statement and make it connect and get to a deeper level and blah, blah, blah. One, sometimes we do overcomplicate it. And two, like, I do think it's important to have a piece that is, how do I say it? Like, to honor both the giving and receiving in our purpose. Sometimes in my experience, we feel like our purpose is just about giving, and in the work that I do, like the purpose statement starts off with an I am statement. And then in the middle has an in order to statement. So it's honoring like who I am and also like how I get filled up in order to do in the world, if that makes sense. Yeah. So the default, I think many of us default to doing. We have to remember that we are human beings. So if you're working through your purpose statement, remember to like honor who you were created to be in that, and receive that so that you can give what you are called to give.
Good point.
Yeah, it's that balance. So yeah. Thanks for tuning in, everyone. We hope that you found some value and have some strategies that you can use to start digging deeper into your why. If you're interested in going through a session with me on discovering your purpose, you can either schedule some time with me on my website or connect with me on social media.
Do it. Won't regret it. Katie, you're just so darn smart.
Oh,
changed my life, and I want everybody to go through Katie's coaching. I think everybody needs it.
Sweet. Thank you. All right. Well, guys, we will talk to you soon. Have a great day.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Hey guys, I'm Katie Williamson, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook at Legit Katie Williamson, or you can head on over to my website, www.katiewilliamsoncoaching.com.
And I'm Lauren Evangelho. You can follow me on Instagram at LOEV_LY. And if you want to learn more about my business, you can follow at Precision Prep by Celia on Instagram or Facebook.com/Precision Prep by Celia.
We look forward to hearing from you guys soon.